Imagine the scene. It's almost midnight. You are lying down, your body sinking into the pillow, and the silence of the house has finally arrived. Then, out of nowhere, your dog lifts its head. It freezes completely. Its eyes lock onto a corner of the room. That corner where there is absolutely nothing. No fly, no sound that you can hear, no movement, and it starts barking. It's not that excited bark it makes when you come home. It's not the playful bark it makes when it wants attention. It's a different kind of bark. Low, tense, and focused. As if, to him, there was something there. And you look, and look again, and you see nothing. At that moment, what goes through your mind? Probably one of three things. Either you think he's gone crazy, or you laugh nervously thinking, it must just be a dog thing. Or, and this is the thought you quickly suppress because it sounds crazy, you wonder if he is seeing something that you can't see. But what if I told you that none of those answers is completely right? And that the real answer, the one that animal behavior science has already uncovered, is at once much simpler and much deeper than any of those explanations. If you've ever been through this and never knew how to explain it, send this video to someone who has a dog right now, because what comes next is going to make a lot of sense to them too. Before anything else, I need to ask you to break down an idea you probably carry without even realizing it. The idea that the world you see is the same world your dog sees. It isn't. You and your dog live in the same house, sleep in the same environment, and eat at the same time. But you inhabit completely different realities. Realities built by senses so different that if you could experience the world the way your dog does for even a second, you probably wouldn't recognize the place where you live. We human beings are essentially visual creatures. Almost 80% of the information our brain processes comes from our eyes. That's why when we look at an empty corner and see nothing, our brain immediately concludes there's nothing there, period. For your dog, that logic doesn't exist. It doesn't live by sight. It lives through its nose, its ears, and a sensitivity to vibrations and atmospheric changes that has no equivalent in the human body. For your dog, the world is a constant symphony of invisible information, a layer of reality that is completely beyond human perception. So when it barks at a corner you see as empty, what's happening is not a failure in its processing. It's a failure in your perception. It is reacting to something that exists, that is truly there, but that your senses simply were not designed to detect. And here comes the part that changes everything. Most of the time, when your dog does this, it isn't afraid. It is protecting you. Let's start with the most obvious sense, yet the one most people still underestimate in a remarkable way: hearing. The human ear, under ideal conditions, detects sound frequencies ranging from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. That sounds like a lot, right? It isn't. Your dog's ear can detect frequencies of up to 65,000 Hz, more than 3 times the human limit. And it's not just the frequency. The anatomical structure of a dog's ear, with those muscles that allow it to rotate independently, works like a biological satellite dish. Your dog can detect the exact origin of a sound with a precision that any human sound engineer would envy. Now think about what that means inside your house. That corner of the wall where it barks, inside that wall there is an entire universe of sound that you will never hear. The microscopic scraping of an insect moving between the beams, the distinct hum of an electrical wire heating up in a way it shouldn't, a warning sign of a short circuit that, if left untreated, could cause a fire. The sound of a water leak slowly spreading inside the structure, the muffled noise of someone moving on the sidewalk outside, still meters away from your door. All of that is happening. All of that is real, and your dog is hearing every detail. When it barks at the wall, it isn't seeing ghosts. It is saying, in the only language it has available, there's something here. Pay attention. This wasn't here before, and I don't know if it's safe. Think about that next time. Because sometimes what seems like nighttime canine madness is, in reality, a biological alarm more sensitive than any detector you could buy in a store. Did you know that? Leave a like if this changed the way you'll listen to your dog from now on. But hearing is only the beginning. Dogs have an ability that science still studies with fascination. They can detect tiny changes in barometric pressure and ground vibrations that come before events no ordinary human instrument could predict. There are documented reports and studies by animal behavior researchers of dogs beginning to show restless behavior, unexplained barking, and intense agitation hours before earthquakes, severe storms, and other natural events. Not minutes before. Hours before. Why? Because the alarm doesn't suddenly break without warning. It gives signs through micro tremors, shifts in geological pressure, and changes in the vibration frequency of the ground that are invisible to our senses but that a dog's paws, body, and nervous system detect as a clear signal. When your dog barks at the floor, or when it barks restlessly around a specific part of the house, a wall, a beam, a corner of the bathroom, it may be reacting to a vibrational change that points to a real structural issue. A severe leak weakening the foundation, a pipe with irregular pressure, a crack slowly developing inside the structure. I'm not saying that every time it barks it means an imminent catastrophe. I'm saying that your dog's body has been designed over tens of thousands of years of evolution to detect these anomalies, and it has no way to explain in words what it is feeling. The only tool it has is barking. It is using the only language it has to tell you what its body is registering. Tell me here in the comments, does your dog do this in any specific spot in the house? A wall, a corner, a window? I'm curious to know. Now we arrive at the sense that once you fully understand it, will change the way you think about your dog forever. Your dog's nose is not just better than yours. It belongs to a category so different from your sense of smell that comparing the two is like comparing a gas stove to the sun. The difference is not one of degree, it is one of nature. A human being has around 6 million olfactory receptors. Your dog has between 100 and 300 million, depending on the breed. And the area of the brain dedicated to processing scent information in dogs is proportionally 40 times larger than in humans. What does that mean in practice? Your dog can detect organic compounds in concentrations as small as parts per trillion. It can smell a drop of blood diluted in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It can identify, based on microscopic particles left in the air, that someone it has never met was within 100 meters of your property 3 hours ago. It can smell you, not your perfume, not your soap. It can sense changes in your body chemistry. When you are stressed, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, and it senses that. When you are afraid, it senses that too. And, according to recent animal behavior research, there are indications that trained dogs can detect changes in body chemistry that precede health crises, such as drops in glucose levels in diabetics or the onset of an epileptic seizure. Now imagine what it senses when it is standing in the living room and a draft carries, from under the door or through the crack in the window, the scent of a stranger approaching your house, or the subtle chemical shift that happens when the environment is accumulating carbon monoxide, a gas that is odorless to you, but that changes the composition of the air in a way the canine nose can detect. It barks, not at emptiness. It barks at a warning. And there you were, looking at that same corner, seeing absolutely nothing, wondering what was wrong with your dog. The next time your dog freezes in the middle of the room and starts barking at nothing, I want you to do one thing before telling it to stop. Stay quiet for a moment, breathe, and remember all of this. Remember that the silence you hear is not the same silence it hears. Remember that the scent you cannot smell is being processed by a nose 40 times more sophisticated than yours. Remember that the vibrations you cannot feel are being registered by a nervous system that evolved over thousands of years precisely to detect what yours cannot. And remember that it is not barking because it has gone crazy. It is barking because it decided, with everything it is, with all the senses it has, that you need to know something. Of course, not every bark is a fire alarm. Sometimes it's a cockroach on the wall. Sometimes it's the wind coming through a crack. The point is not to panic every time it barks. The point is to stop treating this behavior as an inconvenience or a flaw in your dog and start understanding it for what it really is, an act of care. Your dog cannot sit beside you and say, "Look, I noticed an unusual sound frequency variation in that wall that may indicate insect activity or an electrical issue." It has no words. What it has is its bark, and it is putting that bark in service of your safety. There is a fascinating study from University of Lincoln in the United Kingdom that analyzed dogs' emotional responses to different threats in the home environment. What the researchers found was not merely an automatic alert behavior, it was a human-oriented response. Dogs not only detected the anomaly, they actively checked whether the human had noticed it. They looked at the owner, barked, looked back at the point of interest, and then returned their gaze to the owner, in a pattern of joint attention that, until then, had been believed to be exclusive to primates. It is trying to teach you to see what it sees. The bond that exists between you is not only emotional, it is functional. It is a shared perception system in which it covers the blind spots of your senses, and you provide the environment, care, and safety it needs to exist. It is a partnership that evolution took millennia to build. So no, it is not barking at ghosts. It has not lost its mind. It is doing exactly what it was, literally, designed by nature and by the shared history between humans and dogs to do. It is taking care of you, with everything it has, and the least you can do for it is listen. If you have a dog that does this and had never thought about it from this perspective, leave a comment below describing how it behaves in those moments, whether it looks at you in the middle of barking, whether it stands in front of a specific spot in the house, whether it acts differently at night or during the day. Every behavior tells a story, and the more we understand that story, the deeper the connection between you becomes. And if this video touched something you feel for your dog, consider leaving a like. This helps the content reach more pet owners who also deserve to understand what their animal is trying to say.